Hey, everybody.
And Brooke, you can just fix it live.
We're professionals. Look, if we were professional broadcasters, we would be doing that for a living.
Correct. We would not be designing games for a living.
We're professional game producers slash.
I think it looks great. Well, hello. Welcome to the monthly design stream for March.
For March.
It's spring in some places.
It's
not here.
Not here.
I sent my parents a photo of my daughter, like just walking down the street, and the drifts. Not even the drifts, just the standing snow is.
It's 4 feet next to our driveway.
Yeah, it's just high. So
it's awesome. The first year we've had a dog, and she will leap up it. And I posted a wonderful photo on my Twitter yesterday of me throwing snow at my dog.
Nice. Yeah, it was good. Yesterday was a good igloo day.
Good snow throwing weather.
Yeah. There's just a lot. I'm out of places to put the snow at my house. I don't know what. I have moved to the wheelbarrow portion of the winter where I need to use a wheelbarrow to shovel the snow because I can't. I'm out of places to pile it.
Yeah, I guess I am too.
It's lovely though. I mean,
we had a leak too.
Yeah, we went sledding. I mean, I'm really enjoying this part. I like this part of the winter.
All right.
Okay, so
I didn't have time to make an agenda with you. I took Benadryl and I was obliged to nap.
Okay, well we'll go until you fall asleep.
Okay, that's good.
And then we'll just go from there. So a few things. One thing, just a general point. We have an internship that is open right now, accepting applications. We will start looking at applications at the end of this month, so it is open for a few more weeks. Please, especially if you live in the Twin Cities area, or you'll have a reason to be here this summer, consider sending an application. I really love our internship program. It's something that we've done 4 years. I think we're on year. I think this is the 5th year.
5th year.
Yeah, this is the 5th year of the internship program. It's always been great. We've had a lovely time with the interns. And one thing I like about it is it's really tailored to the intern's interests. So it's a game design and game production internship. You're mostly going to be helping Patrick and I. And sometimes that means sitting in on card design meetings or helping design cards. Sometimes it means cutting cards and sleeving them. Actually, that's what it often means. But if you are interested in the business side, there are opportunities to shadow, Ted and all that sorts of stuff like that. Or you can learn about logistics and shadow Anne.
Learn about accounting.
You can learn about accounting. There's just a lot.
Someone wrote me and asked me what to do to get in the game industry, which is a pretty common question. And then they said they have an accounting background. I'm like, you can do accounting in the game industry.
It's true. And there are a lot of small game companies, not us, but other game companies that need accounting help.
Yes.
Yeah, it is one of those things where I often just want to tell folks, like, I only know the way that I got in, which is I just started doing it. Yeah. And that's it. Okay, so let's see. So we have the internship open.
Should I start writing an agenda?
No. We can wing it. I mean, it's a pretty short agenda. I'm going to ask you what you played and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any other studio things that have happened. Last month.
Yeah. I think like Marauder's timeline has moved up for translation. Yeah. And so I would look for that Q1 2024. We're living in 2023 right now. Yeah. So they have the materials. They're working on translation right now, but I get asked frequently when the Marauder translation.
And Ahoy is in that same. Or like right after, right before, or something like that.
And we go as fast as we can, but it is to your benefit that we kind of pace a little bit, see if there's going to be any major issues, and then so we don't translate major issues. So that's what we're working towards. Yeah.
And everyone in the studios, it's been nice, kind of post holidays. Everyone's kind of back, and everything is moving at a pretty good clip now. So it's been busy times here. I will be out next week in San Francisco for GDC, so I'm going to be
jelly.
Yep, going off, and got to finish my talk. I did the classic like 2 weeks ago. I decided that I didn't like my talk as I had originally written it, and so I'm just rewriting it.
Who are you again?
A person that rewrites their talks.
Yeah, you are. And a lot of things. Yeah, sometimes you like to redevelop too.
Yes. Yeah. I think I love throwing away something I've worked really hard on and starting over. Normal part of the process. So, Patrick, what have you been playing lately? And how about you can't talk about Heat? Or you can only talk about Heat.
I can. Okay.
I feel like we must have talked about Heat last time too.
No, because we were.
Because last time we did the Arcs playtest.
We bounced last time. I talked about Heat a lot on Twitter though, so I think that's good enough. I really like Heat. It's good. That's as much as I'm going to say about Heat. I think it is probably already in my top 20.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's a good game. Yeah, and I said I would, except for Flamme Rouge, which is in some ways very similar and some ways very different. It satisfies very different needs. I'll probably get rid of all of their racing games from here on out. Except my wife then said, "What about Pitch Car?" And I was like,
Pitch Car, different kind of racing game.
Different kind of racing game. We'll keep that too. So Pitch Car, Flamme Rouge, Heat. That's my line. And that's probably all my racing games anyway. Yeah, Formula Day. That's a good stuff. So I started last week, 2 weeks ago, with Drew Brockington, the guy who draws Catastronauts.
Just the Castronauts.
Castronauts, yes. Catastronauts is a different thing.
Fumbling this name drop.
Yeah. I'm fumbling my name up. So he and I started a Blood Bowl league out of my house, a Dungeon Bowl league out of my house.
Yeah.
And so we played the first 2 league games of that. And we're only doing 4 games for the first season. So the next time we meet, we'll finish the season, and then we'll start the postseason. And then my daughter and I have been playing.
Yeah.
Dungeon Bowl together, which is we played 2 games on Sunday. We played half a game we played like 3/4 of a game last night, and then they got stressed out and said, "I'll take a break." So I'm playing that. Back to D&D.
Nice.
And what else have I been playing, Cole?
I don't know.
I started Vampire Survivor.
Oh yeah, the like auto clicker killer shooter.
Yeah.
Roguelike something.
Yeah. I'm embarrassed I like it, but I do like it. And so that, and then also on the PC game front, I picked up one last Steam sale. I picked up a lot of those like Flash, not Flash as the programming language, but Flash is the amount of time spent on them. There's a whole genre of these like 4-hour horror games, 2-hour horror games, and I picked up a bunch of those, and I've been playing through those. So, what have you been playing?
I've been playing some Feast for Odin, which I've been really enjoying. Creeping up my list of favorite Rosenbergs. I think I'm now coming to prefer it to Agricola. I think it's maybe a little smarter. And then I've been really enjoying Stationfall, which I just played a few days ago. Which I think Stationfall is my early contender for like favorite game of this year so far.
Okay.
And then last night I punched Horseless Carriage, which is the new Splotter game. I am thrilled. I'm just thrilled by it. I'm very excited to explore it. I'll also the artist Yannick also did the work on John Company, and I think that it is spectacular. I think it's one of the prettiest Splotter games. Really lovely. Just super compelled by the whole thing.
You heard it here, prettiest Splotter.
Well, I think Khan is still like my personal favorite.
Oh, okay, all right.
I just love the zine energy of it. And then with my kids, we have been playing some old Theta games. We played Saturn and Tri-Balance and Pusher, and then lots of backgammon lately.
Interesting.
We've been playing a lot of backgammon in the house. Love backgammon, and I think it's a little, backgammon's funny. It's like a little, it's a little crufty. In the sense that, the bearing off takes like a little bit too long to resolve sometimes. But it is just a spectacular dice game. And there's so much interesting play in it. And my kids are not quite, they don't really engage with the doubling cube. They're very cautious players. And so it doesn't quite reach the heights that I get when I play it with them.
Are you playing for thousands of dollars?
No.
Okay.
Just to 10 or 15 or something.
I see. Okay.
So yeah, lots of games lately, and then my video gaming these days is mostly just still playing StarCraft, still laddering up. I feel like I've been getting better recently, which is fun because I'm in a funny spot with my StarCraft play where I've been playing it for so long that it's really easy for me to not examine my own play. And then I had some time a couple weekends ago and actually watched some videos and watched my own replays and took some notes and was like, okay, there's 4 or 5 things that are holding my play back a little bit. So.
Did I talk about Against the Storm in a previous?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's holding up. It's still early release, and they make a weekly update, so I kind of had to ease off on it just to because because I was like, I can't keep adapting my strategy every time I sit down. I gotta, which is fun. Right. I just don't have time for it.
Sure.
So I'm going to ease up on it and come back to it. Against the Storm is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I'm just going to wait till they're ready.
Yeah, that might be my suggestion too, is to wait till you're ready. You also get a lot of free games if you save and then there's an update. They just give you they give you the game for free. So
Nice.
So I was like, I found myself abusing that, so I'm gonna wait. There's no city builder I was looking at. Anyway, whatever. Let's go on.
Season 2, the Pharaoh one.
Oh my, no.
I think they just they're like re-releasing Pharaoh, which is great.
Well, that's fun. You're that guy you like, that reviewer, the Kids of Cud guy.
Yeah,
he did a Pharaoh. You really like Pharaoh, of course.
Yeah. I think about Caesar 2. That was a game I sunk a lot of computer lab time in when I was like in middle school. Caesar 2 was out. A lot of Caesar 2.
That's awesome.
Okay, so Da Vinci, I was able to visit last weekend. I was in Swanee, southeastern Tennessee. I visited this little university that was wonderful and got to meet a playtester, which was great, and run into some people who had followed my games. We unfortunately didn't quite get the game of Blood on the Clock Tower in, but there's a good chance. There's a good chance I'm going to bring in GDC, so maybe I can get a game there. Okay, so I had a ton to talk about. You got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I just real quick. No, I'll do it. My Twitter.
No.
I'm looking for a copy of Blood on the Clock Tower for this weekend.
Oh boy,
for my party.
Is a public plea.
If anyone could loan me a copy of Blood on the Clock Tower,
I think I can probably set you up.
All right,
we'll see.
I figured I could just whip something together in Illustrator too.
Yeah,
just to get to the base. Yeah.
Okay, so for ARCS stuff. So basically, let me do the non-ARCS projects right now. So we have a lot of little projects that are underway that we're like experimenting with in different registers. Some stuff we'll make an announcement about, within a few months. Other stuff is like way further out, but there's a lot of progress being made. I'm pretty excited about it.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
time to be here because we're talking a lot about like. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Interrupt your thought. It's cool that we're talking about. We're not just talking about the games. We're talking about what we want to do artistically, what we want to do with our careers, what we want to do with the company. What kind of direction we're going right now. And so there's been a lot of discussion about, a heartfelt discussion about what we've built and what it means to us and what we want it to do. And so I think that's been a very exciting. I just like that discussion. Of course it's going to go my way.
Right. Well,
because I own the company. But
it's an important part.
And
it is. It is interesting. And these are the kind of things that don't translate to a Kickstarter update because. Yeah. It's like a side conversation that we have or a video call that we might be on. And we're basically just in a spot where we have to make some decisions about the larger schedule. So there's always you've always got one project that we're working on. There's always something that's on the burner. And then there's a few things that are in contention for being next year's project or, the project in a few months that we'll start working on. And then there's this larger conversation about what sorts of projects should we be doing on the longer term.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting moment because I feel like there are conversations happening about on all three registers.
Right.
And so it feels like we're in a very flexible, place in the whole thing.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I know someone's going to ask about, Oath expansion. So we have a concept for the Oath expansion that we are excited about. We have a rough outline of the content, and I have a sense of how long it's going to take to get made. The biggest question that we have with the Oath expansion is pricing. This is a very funny thing, but actually we have a way that we want to expand it, but it really only works if we can hit certain pricing. And so we're actually getting ready. This will probably have to wait a couple weeks because this week's too busy for it. But I'm getting ready to submit a bunch of quotes to our production manager. We'll forward them to the factory as a request for. They're going to clean them up too because I submit very messy quote requests. But basically, working with the production manager, we're going to see what is actually commercially viable, and then if it looks good, we will start devoting some serious resources to it. So the question that's being asked is the Oath expansion going to be a big expansion, not just cards? Basically, there are two different ways that we could expand it. One of them is more cards, which we know we can do, which is something that we if this other way doesn't work, we will just do the more Oath Cards expansion. That is something that can be done. But there's this other way of expanding it, which also involves more cards, but there are other things it involves too. I can't really get into it because what I would hate to do is tell you what we're thinking of, and then it doesn't work because it's not commercially viable, and then people are going to ask us to do it anyway, and it'll be a goofy. Like the last thing we want is to have a weird half-cocked Kickstarter for like a fundamentally bad idea that because of the goodwill of the backers, we like get across the finish line.
Yeah.
That's actually something that like is a little hard to communicate, where when we're working on projects, we know y'all are wonderful and you will help us make sort of whatever we could possibly put together. But that's very different from being happy that we made something on the like 2, 5, 10 years down the road and we're still trying to sell it.
Right.
So we always have to make sure that like the fundamental business plan is, has integrity. But yeah, the Oath expansion is very much happening, very much underway.
We've had real meetings about it.
We've had real meetings about it. We're just waiting on some more intelligence from it. So, we'll probably have more to talk about, like not next month's stream, but the stream after or so. Okay, so that's the Oath news. I've been spending a lot of time working on ARCs, and I have a lot of ARC stuff to talk about. Do you want to talk about?
Let's do ARCs first.
Okay, ARCs first. Okay, so Brooke's going to humor me by moving the camera over as I'm talking, so I might gesture down here. I won't do it yet.
I'll address root later.
I know. No, I need like a big green button I can press. No. So there's tons of ARC stuff to talk about. Today we released a Kickstarter update where we talked about, among other things, the 2-player mode for ARCs. So what's happened here is as we've been working on ARCs, the game, we're always trying to ask ourselves, like, is this game delivering a good narrative payload? Are there these good like moments that players are walking away, like remembering a particular card play or interaction? And then while that's going on, we're also asking, are these decisions fundamentally interesting? We're trying to amp up both those things. Sometimes when you amp those up, the game gets more rigid. You can't scale for player count because, like, boy, that was a really good moment, but you really needed 4 people around the table to do that. But there are other times where, and I think this is more common in Euro design, where players are interacting with each other, but they're also interacting with the system. And if that interaction with the system is interesting enough, the game will scale a little bit more easily. So previous games that I've worked on, and I'll use Oath and Root as an example, the interactions that you're having are primarily with the other players at the table, which is why the scaling of those games is so tricky.
Right.
And is why the 2-player game of Root feels better when you play with bots than when you just play with humans, because the bots makes it feel like you're actually playing a 4 or 5-player game.
Or the Hirelings.
Or the Hirelings, right? Yeah. Like you just need some other movement in the game system. And I think that is true of even something like John Company, but Pamir, it's not quite true. I think Pamir is probably, with the exception of ARCs, I think Pamir is probably the best 2-player game I've made, but it's because the core interaction with the game system is a little bit more robust than something like Oath, which is mostly about how the players are aligning themselves. So as we were working on ARCs, we started seeing like, oh, there's a lot of interesting interaction happening between player and system. That would suggest that the game scales. And so Nick and I sat down and played a campaign game of ARCs with just 2 players, making almost no changes to the rules. We just sort of sat down and played it. And we found that it like 85% worked just like right out the gate.
Sure.
And it was like there were good beats, there were interesting things happening. It felt full. It has a little bit of an interesting character because players, if you and I each have a kind of pacifist plotline, we don't have to fight. And the game is still going to be like tense in the way a Euro could be tense, but we're not like really playing a war game. Whereas 2-player Root, you are ripping each other apart.
Right.
And that can be kind of abrasive. So what we found is 2-player campaign ARCs is good and also very good for groups that maybe aren't that aggressive. There's like a lot to explore. They've got to deal with the blight. There's like all these, if I don't want to just try to win, I can be working on unlocking different plot elements. 2-player base ARCs is very mean. It's incredibly mean. You are playing a difficult, like operational area majority game with an opponent. It feels
2-player
base ARCs.
Base ARCs. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So if you're playing base ARCs, because there isn't the wider campaign world in the box.
Yeah.
It feels like Twilight Struggle or something where you're like, I'm holding onto a scoring card. Like I can't play it, and you feel like your hand's on fire because you want to be getting it out of your hand. But as a game experience, it's really fun. I really enjoy it. Now, what it does to the game, what you add to it. Let me see if I can do this easily. So I will actually I'll put a card out here now. So this is the 2-player rule card, and currently all of the 2-player rules are on this one card. And basically, the adjustments that you make are when you draw action cards, you have to exhaust the action deck before you shuffle it. And that seems crazy, like people would assume that that's a normal way the game is played, but it's not. In ARCs, you always shuffle the deck with the discards each round because you're going to see, 80, 90% of the cards each hand. But in a 2-player game, if you're doing that, it's possible certain cards would never be seen. So the 2-player version of the game says, look, exhaust the deck and then do the reshuffle, so you make sure to go through the full deck. It's a little bit like one of my friends pointed out that like Scout does something similar with the 2-player because you want to see the whole thing. So that's one adjustment. Second adjustment is setup's a little different, and then the third adjustment is we have this thing called the Merchant, and I didn't print one out, but the Merchant has a little board, and the Merchant starts by holding onto one of every resource, and the players can spend influence cubes to trade with it using the secure action in the context of the 2-player game. Now, what this does is it basically means that there's a little bit of market tightness, because if you have some resources, the supply also has some resources, and then this third party has some resources. The Merchant can even sometimes score first or second place. It just acts as a blocker. You don't give it points or anything. But it just provides a little bit of friction.
Sure.
And we're also figuring out how to provide friction on the other 2 victory conditions that aren't related to resource control. Using the Merchant seems to be working out pretty well so far. So that's how the 2-player works. When you play in the campaign game, the 2-player game has an additional adjustment, which is this 2-party talks card, which basically the campaign game uses. There's a negotiation phase in the campaign game, which I'll talk about in just a second. And one of the challenges of the 2-player design for the campaign game was you have to be able to negotiate. Because I don't want the campaign game to say, hey, if you're playing the campaign game, you can only use half the plot lines because they're only these are the plot lines that are 2-player ready. I don't want any of that. If the 2-player works, I want it to work for everything.
Sure.
And so to do that, we've been experimenting with these negotiation powers in the 2-player game, which basically say, I'm allowed to give you things that come out of the ether, that come out of nothing. So one of the negotiation powers is, I can just give you a resource from the supply. I have to decide to do it. So if you say, I really want you to move into that system, I'll say, okay, give me a fuel. And it doesn't cost you anything. And so the fact that these aren't zero sum, I'm not taking them from you, it creates this baseline incentive to negotiate, because that's going to generate additional actions and things into the design. And one of the things that you can give then is the ability for a player to redraw their hand. Which one of the things that you lose in the 2-player game is that you have a little bit less control, and the deck's a little bit noisier.
Sure.
Half a portion. But in a negotiation, you can say, look, I hate my hand. Can I just mulligan this hand? And that's something that you can allow the other player to have.
Sure.
And there are reasons why you might allow it or not. And figuring out precisely which of the gifts that we want to give is something that we're still figuring out. So for example, the card that I showed in the stream, which Patrick just took. It doesn't matter. We don't need to go back to it.
Okay.
Take it. So there are 3 different things on that card. There's a world where it's 2 different things or even 1 different thing. We're still trying to figure out how much juice the negotiation actually needs.
So how often is the summit?
That is the next thing I was going to talk about.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that was perfect. It was like you were a Confederate in the audience.
Pre-scripted. And how much would such a thing cost you?
In this economy. So I want to talk a little about the event system. So the event system, I went through this a long time ago when there was a big splay of cards. The event system has been cleaned up a lot. Now it is always 3 cards. And the way the event system works, I sadly don't have correct dice printed, but so I'll explain how the dice work, and then folks can imagine it. So basically, at the start of the event phase, the goal of the event system was, it can't keep expanding. It can't be hard to resolve.
Right.
So events happen throughout the game. Usually there's kind of 1 to 3 per hand. It can't take more than a few seconds to do the mechanical stuff. And then if there's a player interaction phase, that's totally fine. That can take time. But I don't want players like having to like go through a big, big algorithm.
My complaint with a lot of co-op games is you are spending about 20% of the uptime
just
watching the game do stuff.
Nobody wants that. So the way this works is in the event system, you roll these 2 dice. One die is going to be orange and one die is going to be purple. And these dice have a number of starbursts on them. So the orange dice is going to have 4 of the 6 faces are starbursts, and the purple die is 5 of the 6 faces.
Yeah.
And then whenever you roll the dice, the first thing you see is, hey, if there's a starburst, you need to flip the matching card. So there's a little bit of uncertainty. We think the summit's happening, but on a 1 through 5, it's going to flip to be this. So like the default behavior is for them to flip, but there's a chance that they stall.
Okay.
And then if you roll double starburst, which is about 55% of the time, the blight is going to attack you, and so you have to deal with the blight damaging all your stuff on the board.
Sure.
So there's always a chance of the blight attacking you. Then you just resolve each card. And the blight is going to spread and grow on the board. It's going to go to places where there are lots of pieces. And when the blight isn't spreading, it's going to repair itself on the board. I could give like a whole separate chat about how the blight is changed. We've really simplified it and made it so it's more of a. It's been both. We've made it we've simplified it, but we've also given it a little bit more expressiveness. There's a bag you pull the blight pieces out of. They have different strength values on them. It's a little bit almost more of like a co-op.
I need to play again. I haven't played. Path is just I'm like I'm in Path. Yeah.
So that's the blight event, and then this third event is what used to be the taxing event. So Imperial Edicts basically says set the tax, and the way these dice work is you can also use them to set the tax, etc. But then after the edicts happen, so if this card flips, you have the summit phase. And the summit phase is where the players will negotiate with each other. So if you're playing single session arcs, the way the game works is that you can always negotiate in single session arcs. There's free table talk. There are rules about what you can trade and things like that. But you can freely negotiate in the same way that in Root you can freely negotiate. In campaign arcs, it's not like that. Campaign arcs, when you get to a summit, you can make binding and non-binding deals. There are lots of different rules for the types of things that you can trade. And critically, as you play the game, you might unlock powers which have the little mountain symbol on it that was on the summit card, like these 2 party cards. And it just says this power is a power that takes place during the summit.
Sure.
And so, for instance, the caretaker role, the librarians, which I've been working on for a long time, they get the ability to lend out their tech. When they get that ability, it's a summit power that says like, hey, during summits, you can lend out your tech or you can take back tech you already lended out. What I like about this event system is that it's always 3 cards. It always takes about the same amount of time to resolve. And what we've mostly done is we with the new event system, we went through all the campaign content and just made sure that everything like hooks into it. So if someone plays like the Blight Speaker, it replaces the second Blight card with the Blight Speaker's like, special event card. There are lots of different negotiation powers that instead of happening in their own phase, now happen inside the summit phase. And if the Empire falls, there'll probably be something different that will happen to the Imperial tax phase.
This is what you mentioned is so bleak. I am dealing with this with Path also. So Path is the most complicated game I've worked on this far, maybe since Dark, and definitely since Fast. And every time you change something now, and like we're talking about restructuring victory point. Like first of all, I removed victory points last version, so now I got to put victory points back in. But every deck, there are four decks with actual text, like useful text on it. And I'm like, oh, now I have to go. I have to make sure every reward fits this new schema. I have to make sure every Path card fits this new schema, and it's that's something else. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, a lot of this is just, and I think it was Josh made like a for Oath. He had like a big dependencies diagram, so whenever we change something, he could look at the diagram and be like, okay, we need to like adjust these 6 cards because they interact with this particular system. it's been interesting to test this because we'll get playtester feedback and they're like, oh, this system's a little busted. And I'll say, like, okay, cool, that's next on the schedule. I'll get to it when I get to it.
Yeah.
And then when I get to it, I'm like, well, now I need to like build in these other elements too to kind of work through it. And actually, what really helped is, I mean, I was having a lot of trouble working on this campaign back in like September, October, and one of the things that I realized that I was messing up is I was working at too many different levels at the same time. And so I didn't throw everything away. I just sort of like put everything on ice. And I said, okay, the core structure is this.
Right.
And I'm not going to care like what's inside the treasure boxes.
Right.
Inside the treasure boxes, it says like draw a treasure card. And I'm like, I'm not making a deck of treasure cards. I'm saying, no, none of that. I just want the core structure to work. And then where are the primary systems? And then after the primary systems are working, okay, now let's do the secondary systems. And that's stuff like the secondary systems are like the flagship mode, some of the event phase stuff.
Yeah.
And only now, and then the other secondary systems are like the intermission and things like that. And then once all that's done, now we're in the final step of content creation, which is going back and being like, okay, let's put some of the branching plot lines back in, some of the adapting market deck, all that kind of stuff. But I found that when I was moving between different layers of the design, it was like I was snagging my foot on like a big part of the poster and like ripping it down.
Yeah.
And so I had to be like, nope, we're just doing it like this is a complete baseline. And then once I built all the way to the top, the next step was you build a vertical slice, and then you go wide.
Yeah.
But it was almost like an abstract game for a while.
Cool.
So last thing that I want to show. Well, actually, let's see. There are two other things I want to show.
This is cool. I mean, that's trite. I'm enjoying hearing about it.
I'm excited to play with you soon.
Yeah.
So one thing that we've been adding in is, this is what I've been working on this week. I'm doing an experiment with an adapting market deck. So the game was, the original pitch for the game was basically the market deck is going to change based on how the campaign goes. But I had to stop doing that because it was causing so much development friction that I just didn't have time to like be constantly changing. Like was additionally like 100 extra cards.
Sure.
So now the design is actually stable enough that I've been able to do it. And so I've been spending this week building that out. And so this includes things like if you're playing the Caretaker. So the Caretaker is a little librarian. I don't know how this is going to look on the camera. They're a little librarian. And their first mission is they're going to have a stack of like cool technologies, right? Like, okay, so all these cards are out of order. It's my bad. So they've got a cool stack. There's the warp key. This one's like a dreadnought. And one of the fun things about this is like, this is going to be a piece. Like there'll be just like a piece that's like, this is the dreadnought piece. Go grab it. It's going to be in the game now. If they succeed in their plot line by unlocking all these things. So at the end of resolving their plot line, if they haven't unlocked these, now these cards get thrown into the market, the ones that didn't get researched. So basically, like if you said, I'm going to discover these 10 or 5 legendary things, I only got to 3 of them. Those 2 that you didn't discover are sent off to be in the deck.
Sure.
And so other players can stumble onto them in their own plot lines. And then if you do succeed, you run into these like stop cards, which we've been working on today. None of this text is like even been vetted by Josh yet, but this is just to take you to the bleeding edge of the design.
I can hear him grinding his teeth.
Yeah. You run into these stop cards, which basically tell you like how to resolve your objective. And then it can do things like, hey, if you were successful in your objective, now, add in these special events, or like now add like, so the Caretaker is all about like loaning technologies. Well, if they're following that plot line, now there are cards in the deck that will allow people to steal technologies that the Caretaker had loaned from them, right? So they can do heists and things like that. So all that stuff is being built in. I'm about 2/3, 3/4 through all the campaign cards, and that will go out to testers hopefully this week. And then the last thing to show you is the intermission. So the intermission we've been working on. I'll put this nice fan out here, and then I'll talk about what these cards are. So the way the intermission works is at the end of the game, you have to decide if you're going to complete your plot point. And the way the plots are set up is that there's a condition that's very hard to do generally, or that should be somewhat hard to do. And if you missed the condition narrowly, you can usually just spend victory points to complete it. So For example, for the Caretaker, you need to have discovered the 5 legendary lore. For each one you're missing, you could spend 5 power out of your score to just pull yourself over the edge.
Sure.
This decision to complete or not complete is a blind bid. Everybody decides at the same time if they're going to do it or not. And then what happens is, in power order, players will resolve the intermission steps.
Sure.
Which means picking what plot they want to go on to next. But after they pick the plot that they want to go on, they also have to choose one of these sacrifice cards. These are the fateful sacrifices. And these are done in, sorry about the glare. We'll figure the glare situation out down here at some point. The way these sacrifices work, I'm just gonna see if I can't, there you go, like that. So the way they work is when you make when you pick this card, you first have to make the sacrifice, which is just a number listed on the top of the card, and then at the bottom of the card, you get something. The sacrifices are picked from a menu, and they basically involve you tearing apart your board position.
Sure.
So the way the sacrifices are built now is like you can sacrifice your starports, your ships, your cities, your technology, or your guild cards. The first time you take a sacrifice, you lose half of it. The second time, you lose the remainder.
Okay.
So if I have to make 4 sacrifices, I could like lose all my ships, half my starports, half my cities.
Sure.
And that is cleaning up the board a little bit. It's also cleaning up guild. If you bought a bunch of technology that you haven't ended up using, well, it's a sacrifice that you can use later. But then you get the advantage on that card, and these cards do all kinds of things. So, for example, the new priorities one, that this text isn't quite right, it just gives you the initiative at the start of next game. So,
sure.
Okay, this is one sacrifice that's normally pretty easy, and I'm going to get the initiative at the start of the next game.
Sure.
So if I'm winning a game, this is the one I'm naturally going to gravitate towards if I love my board position. But if I won a game and I get to pick first, I might not pick it. And the key thing here is when you pick a card, it flips down, and no one else can pick it.
Sure.
So as the winner, though, I could say, I'd rather raid a trove. And when you do that, you make 2 sacrifices, but then you get to start the game with extra resources. So it gives you like a little bit of an advantage in the next game. It did cost an additional sacrifice. Now the player who's in second place could pick that, or maybe they want to pick the 3 sacrifices and do the discovery. The discovery allows them to draw some cards from the deck and just pick one to keep. It's kind of like an oath draw.
Yeah.
And then this last one, the Rally of the Dispossessed, this costs 4 sacrifices. So usually you're only picking this if you hate your board position or if you like have no board
You just want to reboot. Yeah.
And the way this works is you look at all the cards that were discarded that last game and you just pick any 3.
Neat.
And so you can put together even cards that were shedded from some plot lines or right before they're getting scrapped out of the campaign.
Yeah.
You kind of get to go through and be like, oh, you know what? I could put together this combo. And you kind of build a little combo out of it. And then the last one of these, A New Hope, it doesn't cost any sacrifices. Oh, sorry. Boop. This last one, A New Hope, the way it works is you have to dial down your play position or dial it up if you have a few pieces. So it says like, look, put ships on the board until you've got 5.
Yeah.
Or remove ships until you have 5.
Sure.
So it just gives you the soft reset.
Right.
So you can choose 2 different resets in this sacrifice system. You can reset to kind of take yourself back to the first game opening board position, or you can reset to say like, look, I don't even want that. I just want a bunch of cool powers.
Sure.
And so those are the things. And why one thing that the sacrifice system does is it gives players a lot of control over the intermission step. Because now you can go into the intermission and make some gambits about what you think you're going to be able to accomplish in the next game. You aren't forced to like necessarily pay a tax. It's a lot more dynamic. So a player, I've seen this resolve where the players in the lead actually want to cannibalize their board position a little bit, and so you get to the last player in order, and they can just take 1 sacrifice and kind of get a little boost just from other players wanting to pivot. But we've been working really hard on the intermission step. The main thing that we're trying to do is the Oath's intermission step is about 12 phases long, and it was mostly built into the TTS, so it just didn't get like a lot of vetting in the way that I think about Root's setup as, especially with advanced setup, we just set it up so many times. And so we were able to spend a lot of time thinking about what are we asking players to do in terms of physical space. So with ARCs, we've been trying to keep the intermission to no more than 5 steps. And we've just been playing a lot of it and really thinking about how can we keep it simple, punchy. We want people to finish the first game of ARCs and feel like, well, hell yes, I'll go play the second game right now.
Yeah.
And so a long teardown would stop that from happening.
Right.
Cool. All right. That's ARCs chat.
So my comment about this is what I like about this is one of my complaints about 4X is you never go back.
Yeah, you never go back.
Yeah, there's never a Dark Ages. There's never a Pompeii doesn't get buried in fire. You know, that never happened. Well, maybe in Civ 1 you could lose the city to fire, but yeah, in the later Civs you couldn't. And so this creates this like, we streamlined, maybe a way to look at it. We took a step backwards, but now we're ready.
But now you're ready.
We're ready to go again. Yeah.
And we are also like, there are a few elements to it too, where like we're trying to make sure that the power differentials in game 3 aren't too wide. Okay, so 2 questions: if sacrifices are proportional, half your ships, etc., doesn't that encourage less tech, not more? Well, it depends. I mean, so for example, it depends on what you mean by encourage less tech, not more. So for example, if I have, if I have 4 lore cards or something, or 2 lore cards that I want to keep, I could just research more tech to have a buffer so that I can then discard down to 2. Mm-hmm. And so that's encouraging more, not less. The scaling is important though, because you have to make it hurt even if a player is small or if a player is large. Yeah. And that the half round app does that work. And then do you make a faithful, Smithy Elliott says, do you make a faithful choice regardless of if you succeed in your goal? Yes, you definitely have to make a faithful choice always. This is independent of whether or not you've succeeded in your goal. And then what if you have 0 tech? You can't make a sacrifice of something you don't have.
Oh yeah.
It's not a sacrifice.
Gods don't want your 0.
Correct.
Yes. They want your
so last thing I'll mention about ARCs is that so I am wanting to show more campaign content. I've got so much stuff just on the back end to show. And I also really want to show a 2-player game. So we might combine these things and do a 2-player campaign stream one of these weeks. It probably wouldn't be till April, but that would be something that we might get together. One nice thing about the 2-player game is it is fast. I think with a little bit of practice, you could probably do a full 2-player campaign in 3-4 hours. Whereas a 4-player game of a campaign, 3 sessions is probably going to take between 6 and 8. Mm-hmm.
So you might blast through that in the evening.
Yeah, you could potentially just do it. Cool. All right, that's it. Let's talk about Path.
Yeah, let's talk about Path. So, have we talked about the retheme yet?
No, not at all.
Surprise! Boy, probably about 8 weeks ago at this point. Mm-hmm. I got really sick in February. I was in and out of the office, kind of spotty. Visiting in the office. My son started daycare. I'll give everyone the background. My son started daycare this year, and that means I've been sick basically since October. Or someone in our family's been sick basically since October. In fact, I'm just getting over another dang cold right now. Because I had one this weekend. No COVID. Kept testing. No COVID. So I walked into your office one fateful morning and said, we've been delaying this conversation about Path, and one of the things, like we knew that the using root was a handy shorthand to get us through a lot of using the root lore let me focus on the design, and so it was a handy shorthand to move pretty far into the in designing Path. And I feel like I'm competing with this. We have a heater right overhead that keeps starting. And so I walked in and I said, we probably need to start thinking about if we're gonna split this away from, if we're gonna stick with root, or if we're not gonna stick with root, and what's the advantage to sticking with the root theme, and what's the advantage of moving it from the root theme. I think for you and I, we were concerned that we already have people walking up to us at shows and are confused about what Oath is and we're confused about what Fort is because the art style, which is going to continue to be an issue because we're not going to, we still got Kyle. And so I thought a horror show, what if people are buying Path thinking that they can plug it into root, so just very practical right there is one reason to go away from it. I liked root as a theme because, well, like I said, it solved a lot of lore questions very quickly. It also just had kind of a cute, there was one Path card where you find a lost bunny, and it's a very cute story beat. You have to go take take this bunny back to home, and then you get rewarded for doing it. So it was like a little mini side quest in the Path deck, which is what previously that's about how half the Path deck was just these little interludes for your character. And the theme that we moved to isn't as light-hearted as that, and so we have, so I had to pave over the lost money card. Yeah. And so that made me sad. But I'm pretty far into it. So last month I spent about a month working on redesigning it then, and we've moved more towards a system where should we even talk about the intermediate stuff, or just go on to the last step? Okay. Yeah. So we built this. I built this system up where everybody was kind of a magical hacker or a wizard in this world that there's all these ancient buildings, and the setting had sort of a gold rush where the people had found an ancient site where there was among other ruins, there was this tower that you could get a wish from if you could tune it to yourself. And so I guess this is a darker theme, yes. So I started building it with this idea that everyone was a spellcaster in this world, and you were harvesting mana from the setting to then attune other buildings in the setting or the spells themselves to you, and then once you had enough of a chain going, you could then summon the tower, and then the tower would cause some sort of third act effect that you would have to protect the tower while the other players were trying to seize it from you, and they were trying, and vice versa, you were trying to seize their resources from them, and move that forward. And so we got to a point with that. We've been testing that, and what Ted has suggested, and I'm moving in this direction, is that we actually the advantage of the redesign was the game was very streamlined during the redesign. Even though there's still a lot of moving parts in it, they all touch much better now than they did before. And so now what I'm going more towards is going back a little bit more in a path direction where there's a variety of so when the tower was in the game, that became the victory system. Controlling the tower meant you won the game. And now we're moving back towards the score system, where players are scored for going on adventures and gaining wealth and prosperity and things like that. The tower is still in there. The tower is one of the endings of the game for one of the characters, but now the other 5 characters will all have their own ending. I haven't decided if I'm going to link the characters with the endings, or if you're just dealt an ending. The advantage, of course, linking them is then I can then kind of tailor your character development to what you're trying to do, but I also don't want to do that because I feel that might track you into how you're going to play the game a little bit too. You have an optimal approach to how you play the game. Yeah. But what is going to happen is that when you are dealt a victory card, so let's say you get the one where you have to get to 5 strength, but you become like a warlord or a conqueror or something like that, then all the other characters are capped at 3 strength, and when you flip over that card to reveal that that's your path that you're on, you then have the last 2 power-ups that'll let you get to the 4 and 5, unique to you on that card. And then the other missions will provide those sorts of those things that here's another opportunity with your experience points to then move into this area of the game. So and so that's it's retheming away from Root. And so we're moving in that direction with it, and I'm pretty excited about this redevelopment. But it kind of just dropped on my desk last week, so I'm in the thick of it.
Hopefully, I'm in the thick of it next week, but the week after, or maybe later this week.
Maybe later this week. Well, I mean, I'd have to get it ready to go again. So so how we talked about it. Because mana is no longer the goal, I now have to redo the reward deck. Sure. Because mana is no longer the goal, I have to redo the missions and stuff like that. So, no, I've been having a lot of fun with it though, and it is engaging. Now that it's away from Root, it's engaged my this desire to finish it much better, and so I'm working on that. So,
yeah, it's a funny you always want a setting should always. It's like a two-way street, right? You want the setting to be offering a lot, but then also the design to be offering a lot to the setting.
Yeah.
And I think with Path as Root, it was always very easy to think about, to use Root to be we've got this shorthand, we've got this art, we've got this we can just kind of grab those things.
Boots. I know visually what it's gonna look like.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think but one of the conversations we had is this is a new title. And this is a place where we can break thematic ground,
right?
And so the world building is part of the fun.
Yeah, so we're heading that direction. So the that's why I jokingly tweeted yesterday that the path was the friends we made along the way.
Right.
Because one of the endings then is you have to get a certain number of retainers and hirelings.
I see.
And so it's the friends you made along the way. So.
Yeah. And then I'd say for external testing, my guess, we'll see how it plays, but like, I could see a world where we get people back in the office in a few months to play it.
Yeah, I've done a few external tests with people close to me. And I play at home, obviously, like on my game nights, I play at home with them, but I've done a few on TTS. As far as reading more, I keep trying to write some design notes, and then because of this turmoil in the design, I haven't really finished the design. I haven't really finished the design notes yet, but that should be coming along pretty soon. And I've been keeping a set fresh in TTS, like you've been keeping a set of arcs fresh in TTS, so the conversion won't be very hard. Because I've been so sick, I've been mindful to also during the redesign, I liked, for the root version of it, I had all these cards laid out in Illustrator by hand because I didn't know how they were going to look in the end. And then I was like, well, now I can move them into spreadsheets. Mm-hmm. And because of that, now I can move them into InDesign. Because of that, I can now move them into flat files, and I can make TTS much faster. So
yeah, it's funny. Yeah, even printing out these ARCS cards, I just sort of ran them off.
Yeah,
because we built Patty, or I shouldn't say we, I should say Patty. Patty and Andrea built a campaign kit last week of ARCS, and it's the first physical campaign kit in months.
Yeah,
we've been doing all of our testing on TTS, so it's just so much faster.
Yeah. So to answer your question about Act 3 being moving in that, I think that's kind of been abandoned. I think more how I look at it now is that during Act 2, the interloper arrives, which is a concept I haven't worked with lately, but it could be coming back. And that's a special retainer. So it's basically like the game for rubber banding is someone's going to come and help the player in last, and that's the advantage of having points. Is now I know who's in, I now know who's in last again.
Right.
And then during the third act, oh geez, it wasn't the interloper. I got this backwards. I can't remember the second. I can't remember the second act character's name. The interloper then arrives and messes with the player in front, and that puts some new restriction on how they're going to win the game. So. So that's where we're at. So speaking of Root, people have been asking about expansion for Root. We haven't planned anything yet. Yeah, we were still talking about it. I have some notes now, but not anything. I'm gonna wait for Cole to take lead on that.
Yeah.
And we are interested in touching it. I just don't think there's just no way to work on it right now.
I have at least 3 to 4 months of heavy ARCS work ahead of me, maybe 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then and after that it's Oath expansion time for a while. So Root expansion is a project that I would be starting seriously at the end of the year or early next year.
Mm-hmm.
And then even then it's going to take a while to get along.
So it'll be a while for Root, but we're interested in working on it.
There's
no reason we wouldn't want to, and we've even talked about a new edition of Vast, not way down the road, but that's.
Yeah, I think I would say that Root expansion and a new edition of Vast are two things that I really want. I think we should absolutely do. I don't know who, why, when, how.
Yeah.
I don't have the answers to
they're the right person for that job.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's open up for questions.
Yeah. Hang around for a bit.
How was that for the Reintro to Path?
No, I think it's good.
Talk about the theme.
I think that so the one thing I'll say, one of my studio goals is to we have a third game table that I told everyone I would build. That would be the game table for the stream room that I have not had time to build yet. I promise I will be building it. And once we get that up, we can start figuring out how to stream games here.
So the intent of each victory condition then is to engage one of the game systems in a way that is, what's up? Okay. Let's engage one of the game systems in a way that I can read the questions here. She lost them for a second.
Oh yeah.
So it's to engage one of the game systems in a meaningful way that the player gets a little bit more reach into it, but the other players can then block their behavior. So, all right, let's take a look at the questions here. What happened to Dark? I stopped working on it about a year ago at this point, or I guess sometime last summer. We just got to a point where we could not figure out how to make it fun for the right reasons.
Yeah, there's a funny thing. Dark ran into a really funny problem, I felt like, which was there were ways that improved it, but improved it like in ways that caused it to drift into other projects that either we had done or were planning on doing.
Sure.
And so it wasn't like hollowing out its own space.
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you what, I'll just print my notes for it and then let one of you all finish it. Yeah.
Well, and also like what really happened to Dark was it became Path. I mean, that was like the funny thing that happened was there was this like pivot where you're like, Dark started turning into Path. It wasn't that it was turning into Root or something. It started turning into Path.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, why don't I just make Path? And then you like, there's a funny thing where I felt like Dark was careening towards Path, and you said, stop, I'm going to look at my Path notes. Okay, I'd rather use that as a starting point to make Path than to build Path out of like Dark's bones.
And I, kind of a waste of time, but also like I learned a lot. And as Ted likes to say, at least you're not the guy who came in and said, we're going to finish this bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, throwing stuff out is important.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, Leader Games, Easter eggs, and arcs. I don't know yet.
There's probably.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean that's Kyle will do that and not tell us.
Yeah. And then, how are you finding the cinematic rough time story arcs working? Oh yeah. Okay. So this is a good question. Someone asked about how is storytelling in arcs different, because I said in an earlier design diary that I wanted it to feel more cinematic than Oath, which is very smooth in its engagement with time. And I'm finding that it's working really well. Like there are more moments where I feel like tense playing arcs than any product I've ever worked on. Where I get worried, where I shout a little bit. It was fun to watch games at PAX Unplugged because people had like really visceral reactions to it. And I can, when I read the playtester, our playtesters sometimes they'll comment during the game, and we get like running commentaries for things that are happening. And sometimes it's like irritants, which that's going to happen. But other times I can see that they're like reporting on it, like an interesting moment. So I'm really liking how that's turning out. And then there was another question about the arcs, about that time in arcs that has to do with intermissions. And the biggest thing is making sure that the intermissions give really meaningful pivots. And that when I was showing the caretaker plot lines and like how the market can change, that is moving us in a direction where like, if you destroy a planet, there are refugees. That's going to change the character of the next game. And that stuff's hitting really well. Uh-oh.
I'm moving the buildings to the correct character. Okay. Someone just pointed out.
No, my response was, you're not the boss of us.
Move back. All right. Ahoy plans for an expansion. We haven't talked about it.
No, not yet. We're still waiting.
Yeah, we're still like getting sales telemetry.
Yeah, there's like, I think that it's looking like there's enough interest. Like enough people have said like, Ahoy liked it pretty well, would love to see more factions. And that's a real hard line. Like we don't like, it's right on the, to me Ahoy is like right on the edge. I'd need to really look at the numbers, but I do think it can be expanded. It'd probably be a fun thing to expand.
Someone asked me about kingmaking in Path, and I just want to make sure I take a note of it. So you answer the next question. Okay, I'm not even going to address it. I'm just going to make sure I'm addressing
player
it.
Interaction between disparate goals. I will answer Da Vinci's question in the context of arcs. So arcs is very much a reaction to Root, and the problem with asymmetric design so I think that like there are these two problems when you have asymmetric design. If players have very different player positions, then you are not. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah. I thought you were looking at that.
I wasn't. Okay. Sorry. So if you have two different player positions, one way of making them interact is by having a very like thorny ecosystem, like this what Vast does. The problem with that is the player scaling is nightmarish. And also the design isn't very modular, so it's really hard to swap in and out roles. Yeah. Because everything's very like articulated for a particular ecosystem.
Which is what I wanted for it.
Yes, it's like why like Vast is good in ways that make it also hard to expand. It's like they're directly related. In arcs, the answer is if you give an action framework that's really interactive, it doesn't matter if the players are doing different things. Right. They're being forced to interact, which is not really a new innovation. That's like what the Eurospace does. But I'm applying it to a more thematic footing. I mean, I sometimes tell people that some of my job is like looking at really good ideas that like Friedman Fries might come up with, and then actually giving them narrative stakes and like recontextualizing them in a different framework. That text is very
Cole's
smart.
gonna have green hair next time.
Yeah, watch out.
Recent trick-taking games, new or old, either of you played and enjoyed? I mean, I'm still on the crew, so.
Yeah, what did I play? Oh my gosh.
I played Cat in the Box. I liked it, but the scoring system's a little bit too mean for me.
What did I play with? Ryan just taught me how to play one. Ryan, if you're in the chat, mention that game we just played. It wasn't really a trick taker. It was like a climber by the same people who did Bridge City Poker. It's their follow-up game. We just did like an initial like teach of it, but it was pretty compelling. Kind of like it felt like Hard Scout, like 5-3-5 or something.
I haven't played Scout yet.
5-3-5, yes.
5-3-5. Thanks.
5-3-5.
Eric.
Cool design. It feels like Hard Scout. It feels like Hard Scout. I really want to play Shamans. Shamans is on my must play list. 2-player arcs does a forum muck around with the trick taking elements a little, just in the card shuffles, but that's it. Not dramatically. And then cool mechanical system you've noticed in the game you've played recently. Something new.
Oh, let's talk about Heat.
Talk about Heat.
Heat is, when you first sat down to Heat, you're like, it's kind of a deck builder, and you're gonna get these Heat cards that you can't do anything with in your hand. And you're like, well, why would I ever do anything that endangered putting Heat in my hand? I'm never going to engage with that system.
Right. And
that's your stupidest first instinct. And then you're like playing the game and you're like, oh, Heat lets me break the rules in a way that's so meaningful. I don't mind that I get that card later. Yeah. So basically in Heat, you have 6 cards in your engine block, which is just a spot on your little player board. And whenever you go through a turn too fast, want to accelerate, boost your car a little bit. I don't know what other ways you break the rules with the Heat, but you have to move one of those cards from the engine block into your discard pile, so they're going to come back around into your deck later, and then there's a way to mitigate them and they come back around later. And so a lot of the game is how do you pace the flow of that Heat through your deck, and how do you pace the flow of the low and high numbers in your deck, so that you can have low numbers when you're turning, high numbers when you need to book it. And I think that, like, once you realize, you're like, all my friends, I sat down with them, like, you're gonna want to take these.
Right.
Understand that. It's just when you take them, that's the decision you gotta make. Yeah.
And then let's do one more maybe. So, first prototype. What does the first prototype we build look like physically in terms of detail? Okay. So my prototypes. I think this is true for both of us. Scrappy. Like. Only text. If I need 3 different icons, I will do like square, circle, triangle. I will start there, and then I'll do some icons shortly after that. But I keep things lots of white space.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of white space in early prototypes. And then in terms of details, I mean, I tend to think about it like if I'm doing a game design project. It depends on the scope of the project. If it's a big project, I want to make a proof of concept, which is I ask myself, like, what is the smallest possible deck that will make the game work? What are the fewest special powers, fewest pieces, smallest map size?
What gets us through one game?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then what will happen is once that's working, I might even build a few different proof of concept systems. Like John Company was like that, where I built that design very modularly, where I was like, okay, I'm working on this corner of the design. I work on it and then I like plug it into the larger thing.
Right.
Because it was impossible to step back. And ARCS has also very much been like this. ARCS is a big enough project that like I can't just design all of it.
Right.
It's impossible. So what you end up doing is design a segment, get it really working, and then you plug it in, and then you build a framework where you don't have to be constantly overriding your own.
Otherwise, you spend 12 hours going.
Do I need to? Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Favorite Blood on the Clock Tower character?
Oh, the drunk.
Well, yeah, probably the drunk. No, I love the Slayer. So in the first set, I love the Slayer, and in the second set, I love the Lunatic, who thinks they're the Imp, but they're not.
Oh, that's. Wait a minute, there's two of us.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's like literally like killing people, and sometimes because of the second set is quite bloody. Sometimes people die.
Yeah.
And so they're like, "Well, I know I killed that guy." It's like, "No, you didn't."
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
that's
there's
funny.
another reason why they died. All right, cool. Well, let's call it there.
Yeah. If you're missing anything, if I missed something, go ahead and ask me on Twitter.
Yep.
Or Discord, ping me on Discord, or I don't know.
Yep.
That's it.
And,
Those are the only ways to
and
contact
for
me.
folks looking to play ARCs, next month, within a month, we will be releasing a fresh base kit. The campaign kit will hopefully happen the month after or so. Depends on how fast it goes. But
And then
it's coming along.
early versions of Path in a couple of months.
Yep. Sweet. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a lovely day.
Bye. I'm going to rest my voice.